Hey, most people have no idea where they stand. Not roughly, not ballpark, genuinely no idea, because nobody talks about this out loud. You don't ask your coworker what's in their savings account. You don't ask your friends. So you're left with this vague anxiety that everyone else has figured something out that you haven't, or this vague reassurance that you're probably fine because things have worked out so far. Today, that changes, because the Federal Reserve actually collects this data. Every 3 years, they run something called the Survey of Consumer Finances. They ask thousands of real American households exactly what they have saved, what they own, what they owe. And the numbers they publish are some of the most clarifying and most uncomfortable data I've ever spent an afternoon with. I want to walk you through every age bracket, and I want you to find yours and just sit with the number for a second before we talk about what it means. But before we get into the brackets, I need to explain something about how these numbers are reported, because if I don't, the data will actively mislead you, and that's the opposite of why we're here. There are two ways to measure average savings. There's the mean, what most people call the average, and there's the median. And for wealth data in America, the gap between these two numbers is so large that they're basically describing different countries. Here's why. Imagine 10 people in a room. 9 of them have $10,000 saved. 1 of them has $1 million. The average savings in that room is $109,000. The median, the number right in the middle, is $10,000. Which number actually describes your experience in that room? The median, every time. America has a lot of people with a lot of money sitting at the top of these distributions, and they pull the average upward in a way that makes typical Americans look far better off on paper than they actually are. So when I give you numbers, I'm giving you both. The average tells you what the math says. The median tells you what's actually true for most people. Keep that in the back of your mind for every bracket we go through. Let's start at the beginning. Ages 18 to 24. You're either just out of high school, in college, or freshly into your first real job. The Federal Reserve's data shows the mean savings for this group at around $11,000. Sounds okay. The median is $1,500. That's the real number. Half of people in this age range have less than $1,500 saved, and honestly, that tracks. You're entry level. Maybe you have student loans. Maybe you're paying rent for the first time. Maybe you're just figuring out that groceries cost real money. The benchmark for this age group isn't a specific savings target, it's a behavior target. The one thing the data shows separates people who build savings in their 20s from people who don't isn't income. It's whether they started a habit of saving anything at all before 25, even $50 a month. The amount almost doesn't matter at this stage. The pattern does. Because the people who save $50 a month at 22 tend to save $200 a month at 26 and $600 a month at 31. The people who save nothing at 22 tend to save nothing at 26 and feel a low-grade panic at 31 that they can't quite name. If you're in this bracket and you have more than $5,000 saved, you are genuinely ahead of most people your age. If you have less than that or nothing, you are not behind some imaginary standard. You are exactly where the data says most people are. The question is just what you do next. Ages 25 to 29. This is the bracket where I think most people have their first real reckoning. Your 20s arrive, and suddenly the retirement conversation stops feeling abstract. You have a mortgage maybe, or you're trying to. You might have kids, or you're thinking about it. The financial demands of adult life are fully present. And the runway to retirement, which felt infinite at 24, is now something you can actually do the math on. Mean savings, approximately $49,000. Median, $7,400. Read that again. The average looks like someone doing well. The median reveals that half of Americans between 25 and 29 have less than $7,400 saved across everything. Checking, savings, retirement accounts, all of it. The benchmark, according to Fidelity's widely cited savings guidelines, is to have the equivalent of your annual salary saved by age 30. So if you're making $55,000, the target is $55,000 saved by the time you hit that milestone birthday. By the median data, most people entering their 30s have about $13,000. That's roughly 20 to 25 cents on every dollar of that benchmark. Now, is Fidelity's benchmark a hard rule? No. It's a guideline built around a specific retirement timeline and a specific income replacement goal. But the gap between 20 cents on the dollar and the actual target is real, and it has compounding consequences we'll get to. If you're 27 with $15,000 saved and a 401k you're contributing to, you are doing better than the data says most people your age are. That's not a compliment I'm handing out to make you feel good. That's what the Federal Reserve numbers say. Ages 30 to 34. This is the bracket where I think most people have their first real reckoning. Your 30s arrive and suddenly the retirement conversation stops feeling abstract. You have a mortgage maybe, or you're trying to. You might have kids, or you're thinking about it. The financial demands of adult life are fully present, and the runway to retirement, which felt infinite at 24, is now something you can actually do the math on. Mean savings, approximately $87,000. Median, $21,000. The Fidelity benchmark at 35 is 2x your salary. So at $65,000 a year, you should be looking at $130,000 saved by the time you hit that milestone birthday. By the median data, most 30 to 34-year-olds have $13,000. That's a significant gap, not a catastrophic one, not an unrecoverable one, but a real one that requires real decisions to close. Here's what I want to say to anyone in this bracket who's doing the math right now and feeling the stomach drop. The gap at 32 is recoverable. The same gap at 52 is a different conversation. The reason the 30s matter so much isn't the savings number itself. It's that this is the decade where compound interest either starts working seriously for you or it doesn't. Every dollar you put away at 32 has roughly 30 years to grow before a standard retirement age. That dollar at 52 has 10 years. The math on those $2 is not even close to the same. Ages 35 to 39. The decade of peak financial pressure for most Americans. Your income is probably higher than it's ever been, and so are your expenses. This is statistically the age range with the highest rate of lifestyle inflation, meaning income goes up and spending follows it almost immediately. Mean savings, around $132,000. Median, $36,000. If you're 38 with $80,000 saved, the mean makes you feel behind. The median makes you feel ahead. The truth is that you're in a real position to make the next decade count, but only if the lifestyle inflation hasn't already absorbed every raise you've gotten. This is also the bracket where I want to bring something up that the data doesn't fully capture. Home equity. A lot of Americans in their late 30s have meaningful wealth tied up in real estate that doesn't show up in a savings account. That's a legitimate asset, but it's also not liquid. It's not directly funding your retirement without deliberate planning, and it doesn't replace the compounding that happens inside a retirement account. Owning a home and having retirement savings are not interchangeable. I see a lot of people in this age range who feel secure because of their home value and have almost nothing else. That's a specific kind of financial risk that's easy to miss because the number on Zillow looks reassuring. On to the 40s and beyond. Ages 40 to 44. Fidelity's benchmark at 40 is 3 times your annual salary. The median savings for Americans 40 to 44 is approximately $45,000. Mean around $148,000. Median $45,000. If you're earning $70,000 a year, 3x is $210,000. The median 40 to 44-year-old has $45,000. That's less than a quarter of the benchmark. I want to be careful here because I don't want this to feel like a verdict, but I also don't want to sugarcoat it because this is the video you came to for real numbers. The gap at 42 is still closable, but it requires a specific kind of urgency that isn't necessary at 32. The math changes. The time window for compounding gets shorter. Contributions need to be larger. The decisions that were optional at 30 become necessary at 42. If you're in this bracket and ahead of the median, even modestly ahead, that puts you in a genuinely strong position relative to most Americans your age. That's worth acknowledging. Ages 45 to 49. This is quietly one of the most important brackets because it's the last one where aggressive course correction is fully possible without dramatically altering your retirement picture. Mean savings, approximately $254,000. Median, $63,000. At the 4% rule, $63,000 generates $5,360 per year in retirement income. Add the average Social Security benefit, which as of 2024 is approximately $1,907 per month or $22,884 per year. The median 45 to 49-year-old is looking at roughly $28,000 in annual retirement income. The federal poverty line for a single person is around $15,000, so it's above that. But the median American household spends approximately $66,000 per year, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics consumer expenditure data. The gap between $28,000 and $66,000 is where retirement anxiety lives. None of this is meant to be paralyzing. It's meant to be specific, because vague anxiety is paralyzing. Specific numbers are actionable. Ages 60 to 64. The final bracket before traditional retirement age. Fidelity's benchmark here is 8x your salary.